We were actually sitting on the very tool that could have saved us from our short sale back in 2011, but we did not understand how to use it. And I would bet that many of you could be sitting on this tool that you have access to, but you're just not using it like it could be used to really help get your money flowing in a direction that's going to serve you and not serve the banks. And if we would have known this strategy, if we would have known this, we would not have lost our home in 2011. And that is why I wanted to start this channel, because we just don't know what we don't know. And the opposite of knowledge is ignorance. And so when you go through something where you lose things and something you've worked so hard, to buy our first home. This was our first home my husband and I had ever owned. This is where we had all three of our children. And to get to the point where we had to give that up, it was really, really, really a hard, low time in life. Because at that point, I was 37 years old. And we shouldn't be going backwards at that point in our life. We should have been building, right, and getting more confident and gaining more momentum. And here we were having to start literally from the bottom again and build back everything that we had just lost. And so when you have that kind of loss and that kind of grief, I don't know about you, but for me, I just said, I don't ever want to be in this situation again. And I started to unlearn things that I had been taught. And the first step that I had to do was begin to open up my mind to something new. The hard news is, if we would have known what we know now, that first house could have been our very first rental. Because that is something my husband and I have desired for a very long time, to be in real estate. And we are now, thankfully. We've had to rebuild. We have rebuilt a lot. So I want to just tell you all, there is hope, because that 37 is when we hit rock bottom and we were building from ground zero up. I am 51 now. And my husband's a little bit younger than me, but we have, 15 years now since that happened, that we have learned and grown and really built our way back up, and had to unlearn a lot of what we've been taught. And many of us are not taught how to bank any other way than what we are trained from the beginning to bank like, and that is to use a checking account and use a savings account and run all of our money through there. We are not taught how we can use lines of credit and HELOCs, which is a home equity line of credit, for a tool for us to help us leverage what the bank is giving us access to, and to get us out of that bad debt and use this good debt as leverage. And that is the game changer. And so I want to break down for you today in this video how having that HELOC could be your gold mine. It could be what you're sitting on, but you're just not knowing how to use it strategically to help you. Because if you see a HELOC as just another debt payment, which is what we did in our first time that we ever had a HELOC, we've made a lot of mistakes. And one of the mistakes we made in 2008 with a lot of other people is when we refinanced, we got into an interest-only loan, and which looked fabulous at the time, because when you're paying an interest-only mortgage, you're only paying the interest, which they don't tell you you're not paying down the principal, you're only paying the interest. And what really got us is that interest rate was tied to prime, and it was variable. So within, I think, literally 3 months of getting that loan, which had freed up like $500 for us a month, because we were no longer paying the principal and interest, we were only paying the interest. And we were going to use that extra money to snowball down our debt, right? And so we had this great game plan. Well, what happened in 2008 was that interest-only loan was variable and everything skyrocketed. Prime went up. And so within 3 to 4 months of refinancing into that interest-only loan, our mortgage payment of just interest was now what we had originally paying when we had principal and interest. I know many people, you were in a similar situation in 2008, and that's what truly, truly got us. But we still, I truly believe, would have been able to save that house and have it as our first rental if we would have been using our HELOC strategically. See, we just saw the HELOC as another debt payment. And so I'm going to move over to the whiteboard now, and I just want to show you a little bit of just the example here. Over to the whiteboard now. Here we have our HELOC. This was at our first house, okay? This is the house that we ended up having to short sale because we did not know how to use this as our debt weapon, or our tool, I should say. We were not using it as a tool. We were just seeing it as another debt payment. And so I remember the very first thing we did was we got a fence for our dog Sammy, which cost us $5,000. And then we paid down a credit card where we paid that off. And so now on our home equity line of credit, we owed $8,000. Okay. The payment was $250 a month. And we made that right to the HELOC out of our checking account, because this is the traditional way. We get paid in our checking account. We pay our bills through our checking account. We wait again. And this is why it constantly feels like you have no money left at the end of the month, because you're waiting for your next income to go in to your checking account. But when you begin to see how we begin to flow our money, you're not going to feel that crunch. You're not going to feel that trapment. You're not going to feel like you don't know how you're going to get through the end of the month, because you're going to have access, which on this channel, that's really one of my goals, is just to show you more options, that there's not just one way to bank. There is another way. And so I hope that this just brings you some more ideas. This might not be the right idea for you. It might not be the right tool for you, but I believe many of us are sitting on what could be our gold mine, what could be the thing that gives us the peace that we've really been needing around money, is just how to flow it a little bit differently. So now, if we would have known what we know today, right? It's always great to look back. Hindsight, it's always 2020. I tell my kids, we try so hard to warn people, right? We try so hard, but sometimes they just gotta go through it. And when we know, when we're on the other side and we just see the mistake get happen, and you're just, as a parent, like, oh, okay. So anyway, if we could go back to 2011, when we ended up having to finally go through our short sale, we would have used this HELOC as our debt tool. We would have had access to that $20,000. We would have had money put into our checking account. That's where it has to go from our jobs into our checking account. But then we would have immediately taken that money and we would have dumped it into that home equity line of credit. Okay, because that becomes our checking account. The HELOC becomes our checking account. So that $3,400, when it lands into our checking account, we immediately would have put it into the home equity line of credit. And you can see then we would minus out what we owe on that home equity line of credit, which when we dumped in our $3,400 of income, it would have given us access to, now we would have only owed on our HELOC $4,600, freeing up, another $15,000, $14,000 that we had access to again. So this is what I'm saying. Now we have access to more money again. Okay. Because when we had 8,000 out, we only had access to 12. Now we dump in this. Now we have access to more again. So you see how this kind of feels like you're recycling your money. And so at this point, you say, yeah, but you got to still pay your mortgage and you got to still pay your groceries and your gas and your bills and everything. And yes, we do. So everything, this is how we would do it now. Everything that we could possibly put onto a credit card, we would have put onto a credit card. And then we know that payment is only due one time a month. Okay. And then usually you're paying the month prior. So when your credit card statement is due, it's from the month before. So now you've kind of okay, I know what we spent in November. That's going to be due in December. And it just is so much easier, y'all. It's so much easier. You know exactly what you're going to have to pay. And then the goal is to pay that whole credit card off each month. So you're not having any interest that you're paying on that credit card. And you're pulling money out of this home equity line of credit to pay off those bills that you are going to be paying anyway. But you're letting your income for the entire month, until you have to go out and pay your bills, sit in that equity, that home equity line of credit. And I'm not going to talk about this or go into depth in this on this video, but the game changer here is simple interest is how home equity lines of credit are found. Lines of credit are not found, but how they figure their interest. It's on simple interest. That means you're only getting charged interest on what you have outstanding. So when we dump our income into that home equity line, now for the majority of the month until we have to pay that one mortgage payment or we have to pay that one credit card bill payment, all of that income is sitting in that home equity line. So we're only going to pay interest on the 4,600. And then as we pull out our expenses, that amount will go up. But that interest is on a daily average. So over that month, you're going to be figured how much interest you're going to pay. Literally, it's going to be dollars compared to hundreds of dollars. And over a whole span of a year, it's not going to be very much to what you would have paid out in interest to your credit cards, to your student loan, to whatever it is you're trying to chunk down with this home equity line of credit. Okay. So this is the system that I'm wanting you to get a handle on, that I'm wanting you to see. You can literally dump all of your income out, pull out your expenses as you need it. You're going to be paying very minimal amount of interest on that home equity line or that line of credit. There's what we can call a personal line of credit you can get. There's the home equity line, and there's also business lines of credit. So you can see how it becomes like we are recycling that money. And this is the big goal here. I want you to see hope. I want you to have options, and I want you to feel freedom to live now. Because many of us are living for someday, right? We are saving for retirement. We're hoping that we can get to this point to live that someday. But I'm at the point now where many of my friends were going through health issues with our parents. Maybe our parents have passed away. They get to that retirement age and they haven't even been able to live. And that is so sad. And, people work their entire life to get to that someday. And my goal is I want us to help to live in the now moment, because that truly is the only moment we have is now. And we begin to learn how to live now. When we have options, when we have freedom, when we don't feel stressed, when we want to go on vacation and we can do it because we know we have a way to pay that down. We know we have a way to run our money through that. So I hope this brings you some hope and inspiration today. Please like and describe. Oh my gosh. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and check out my comment below or in my description. I'm holding a masterclass on January 10th. It's a Saturday. I would love to see you there, where I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. But thank you, and I'll see you next time.